Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast, a production from Empowering Pumps and Equipment as the voice of the pump and related equipment industry. Episode 57 of the Empowering Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Charli Matthews, and I'm joined by my co-host, Bethany Walmack.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Charli, thanks for having me. And thank you to all of our listeners for listening to us like you do every Monday. We're always glad to have you, and we really appreciate it when you leave us a rating, a review, or a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. It really helps us get out there and find more listeners so we can make this community even bigger and better. This week, we're going to cover the news, talk about social media, and connect you with an industry influencer. But we'll start. Charli, tell me about your week.
Well, I have a funny story about this week. So I've talked about tennis, and Leroy told me he wanted to hear more about tennis. So I'll talk about tennis. So I started my tennis team during COVID. So I'd have something else I needed to do and to be social and to get out there and burn some energy. And this group of ladies,
leave her house, get away from her family just for a little bit.
All of that. And so these ladies have been such a great just resource of goodness and we laugh and joke. But I have a funny story about yesterday. We were supposed to have our party and kind of end of the season party, if you will. And I show up to the house. I'm like, oh, I'm on time. I'm early. I'm the first one there. It's the wrong day. It's a week before the actual party. So Carrie's like having dinner. Her dogs are running around the house. And they're like, I don't get it. When I first walk in, I'm just like this weird feeling, And I'm like, oh, okay. That's why y'all are looking at me like I'm crazy. So anyway, I think it was just really funny share. I like to let people know that, I'm normal and I do stupid stuff. But another thing that's really fun for the week is that, there's a bunch of panelists, or I've been invited to be part of these different panelists discussions, and that's been really fun. So we've hosted our own webinars where they've had roundtables or panelists, but then I've been invited to be part of that on other channels. So hopefully I will be there on the right day, but I have a calendar invite for that.
Well, I feel like as long as you're not late,
yes,
as long as you're not a week late and just don't show up at all. It'll be
That's
okay.
True.
People can forgive you for showing up early, right?
Yes, but I was so embarrassed. I really was.
Awesome.
What about you? What's your week like?
Well, today, Wednesday, we're recording on Wednesday because Charli and I are doing fun things this weekend. May 19th, the first day my husband has gone back to the office to go to work for the first time in, what is this, 14 months, 15 months? I don't know, 16. What is time? I don't know what time is anymore.
Yeah.
But he's gone. I have the office all to myself. I'm going to have a party. I'm pretty sure he doesn't listen to these episodes anyway. So
I'll celebrate with you. We'll definitely celebrate with you.
Thank you.
Freedom of the office space.
It was funny though, because I was excited. And then I was like, oh, we still have a baby. Like somebody needs to watch the baby. So then my mom came and saved the day, and my mom's here watching the baby while we record. So my week, we'll say today, has been super productive, just getting to work all by myself. Yeah.
Breathe. Can we just take that in? I can feel it. I can feel the silence of the office space for the moment.
And the lack of coffee cups on his desk too, honestly. Impacts. We'll see how it impacts my my ability to talk on this podcast. So we'll see. Y'all let me know.
I think it's a good time. I think it's a good time to get social. Yeah.
Always. This is where we're going to talk to you about something in social media or something we read or something you need to know, including when you can hang out with us. Charli, when are our next hangouts?
Yes, the next one for Empowering Women is going to be June the 9th. That's every second Wednesday at 11 Central Time. The Empowering Brands Meetup is Tuesday, June 15th, every third Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Time. Super fun groups. We just had our last one this week, and it was just really fun. So join us, like she said.
Actually, both the calls this time, I thought had some pretty meaningful, in-depth conversations where you're just learning from different people, and really, really good time. And I'm always glad those are organized, and I always want to see you. So join those. Click on the link in the show notes so we can send you the invite. And also, we love to do shout outs here on the podcast. And I think Charli has several for us this week.
Yes, I wrote them down because we have so many. Aruna and Santosh that commented on YouTube. Next time, y'all comment who you are, because YouTube doesn't have that where we can see on your profile. Well, it does, but yours wasn't filled out. So you can just tell us who you are in the comments. Also, LinkedIn, there was one for Melanie Homer, who is a water reuse leader from Brown and Caldwell.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love water reuse. It's not wastewater, guys. We're going to reuse it. So it's just a bunch of different terms that we're going by now. And then Ron Fassard, who we have talked about quite a bit on the podcast, but I loved his mention. And also I loved his profile description. 30-year fluid sealing expert and an engineer with good communication skills. So if y'all want to talk with Ron, go over there. He's on Twitter. He's on LinkedIn. He's on Instagram. Yeah. He's everywhere. So talk about getting social. Ron's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And not to like call anyone out, but I love when you find these people who have been in the industry that long, who are so engaged in social media and using those tools to talk to you. It's just really fun to get their perspective, which you don't see from a whole lot of people in their experience level. And so he's always great. I love Ron Fassard. And he always has nice things about us.
Yeah, he's a great person to follow, and absolutely, we love all the people that give us these comments. We get to know you better. I mean, that really is part of it. We know you're listening, and we know you care about our industry. Was the other part of that. So, always going to shout out Leroy because he is doing an amazing job with our recaps on LinkedIn.
And last time I mentioned that I was really into game theory and listening to podcasts about it and stuff. He sent me this really thoughtful, long message about how he sees it play out in like social politics and some conflict going on in the Middle East. And it was really nice. And I learned some stuff. And thank you so much for sending me all of that.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So on to our wisdom that we're going to impart on you today for this social segment. Charli, this was your idea to talk about social media polls and how you can effectively use them to build your brand and participate on social media. We're talking about them in a way that I hope can be useful to you if you want to use them for your personal account to build your personal brand, or if you're in marketing and you want to use them for your company page. And Charli, you've used them, I know, on your personal page.
It's one of my favorite things. Yes. I mean, really, because I hadn't used them strategically. And this post that I did was strategic. I wanted to know who our listeners were on the podcast. So I created a poll. I said, do you listen to podcasts? Do you not listen to podcasts? Do you not know what a podcast is? But the point was to find out who was listening. And the great thing about the LinkedIn polls is it shows you who in your network responded. And that was really helpful. So it was great to get to know you listeners out there. And just, that's what gave me the idea to tell you, let's talk about polls today.
Yeah. And so they're on LinkedIn, like Charli mentioned, but they're also on the other social media platforms. So you can use them on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, probably more. Those are kind of the big four we're going to talk about. And there's slight differences in how you can use them. So in Instagram, they just have A/B polling that you can use in your stories. So you ask a question, you only have 2 answer options. And so, that's limiting in its own right, but you can accompany it with some pictures. Then,
you know what I like about that? I love that you can see who actually sees your stories, because they'll comment and then you're like, okay, that's who's like highly engaged with me today. So even if it was just a couple people, you will be like, okay, confirmed. Somebody saw my story. We'll keep posting those.
You can check who sees your stories, even if it's not like a poll, right?
That's right. It's right. But, there's a secret stalkers.
The secret stalkers. Yeah.
We like really those too. Good stalkers are good. Yeah.
Charli likes all stalkers. Charli is a stalker. We learned this on the last podcast as well. So that was Instagram. Facebook allows A/B polling too, but let me tell you, I am not impressed with Facebook polling. A while back, they changed how you actually can do it. You can only do it for a page or a fan page, and you have to like revert back from the current posting, the way they have it, to the classic posting thing and go through about 10 options before you find the thing for poll. That's a little bit of hyperbole, but I'm going to say pass on that one. Twitter, you can have multiple answers and no graphics. And then LinkedIn, you can post a poll to, your personal account or a business page or a group. It's really helpful. So
that's exciting because I only posted for my personal account. So we maybe have some ideas for our business page.
I like it.
Okay. So our 5 tips here on how to use social media polls. We're going to write an amazing blog. Bethany is going to write an amazing blog. Number 1, use a poll to increase engagement. And, this is why I did it, right? It's easy for people to participate. They can just, click a button instead of having to comment and kind of get their point out there. You really should think about how to make it interesting, though. Like, what can you say that's going to bring in the listener? Is it relevant to your business, or I guess your personal account? Depends on if you're, posting the same type of topic normally when you're on there. Keep an eye on kind of peak traffic times for each of these different platforms so that you post that poll when people are actually there. Some really cool tools to figure that out as well. And then let's make sure that we tell people, if we're going to do this poll, if it allows you, right, to tell them why you want them to participate. So I maybe even go back and say, like, okay, I really want to hear from our Empowering Pumps and Equipment audience, like, on this. Are you listening to Empowering Industry Podcast, and get some real feedback there? So that would be fun. But the idea is just to increase your engagement, and you do that by posting relevant content that people want to interact with. And I find that polls are a great way to do that.
Yeah, and even as a user interacting with other people's comment, I do find posts, I find myself a lot more likely to answer a poll question where I can pick an answer than to give my opinion in a comment sometimes. And so, because I know the value of polls, when I'm scrolling, I always try to answer for people. So do us a favor and answer as well, please. But our second tip to using them correctly is to make sure you use them on the right platform. So I talked about the different platforms and how they're different and all of that. But, kind of think like what audience is where. So on your LinkedIn audience, you're going to have, you're more industry focused. That's what you're talking about on there. And so you can ask more in-depth questions on there, in-depth polls that get people thinking really about industry. Where on Instagram, it's more like fun and just nice content and building brand awareness and that kind of thing. So you might keep it more light there. And then just thinking about the limitations of the polling. So if you have a poll that you need multiple answers to, which, let's be real, most good polls are going to have more than 2 answers.
Yes.
Yeah. Then you're looking at really LinkedIn is where you're going to want to, or Twitter. Either of those give you multiple options.
I like to ask and use Twitter polls to find out who in my audience is watching the sporting event with me. So I would always ask, like, are you rooting for Alabama or not? And then I'm like, okay, who followed me because they're Bama fans? Anyway, it's just kind of fun ways, even though that, that is one of the networks that we use to talk about empowering pumps. We also can have some fun with it too.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so number 3 is to use polls to generate more content. And so one of the things I could have done is taken that poll and made it into a blog. Like, this is what I learned from posting this. Or, let's meet up and talk about this. And maybe that's not a good example for my poll that I did, but any poll that what type of technology are you seeing being adopted this week, right? Like, and let's talk about that. So just, it's not really a survey, a scientific survey, if you will. It's more just, get out there and do this and see what kind of response you get. So don't be afraid to jump out there, right? We're great at overthinking. We really are great at overthinking, but you don't have to at this.
Yes, I wrote that in because, I took at least one full semester of classes all about how to do marketing surveys in the correct way and not leading answers and all of that. And so I get that. What is it called? like something decision paralysis or something when it comes to writing polls. It doesn't matter. We're not publishing a paper. You're just using this to say, hey, I asked my people this and this is what they said. And now here's my thoughts. It's just a fun talking point.
It absolutely, it's a resource.
Yes.
Yeah. It's an absolutely resource to use and get to know that's really what we're here for. We're talking about let's get social. We're talking about getting social, getting to know our audience. And this is a great way to do that.
I love it. Number 4 is to think big and to think strategically. So we've gotten to this point in the list. You've gotten your audience to engage with you. You've gotten some ideas for writing future blog posts or doing more content, but now you need to think even bigger. So the goal here is to get more engagement. So it's using the poll to make people go to your website for something. So maybe it's a trivia question that you're giving out. You're picking one of the people who picked the right answers and you're giving them a prize, but they have to go to your website to search for the right answer. Or, maybe you ask them what of their favorite podcasts is their favorite episode, and they have to choose, but they've had to listen to all of those. So any way you can strategically get people to interact with you more based on the poll. And one idea that I had that we could even do is to ask people to submit their own poll questions that we can post through our page. Yeah, because then we're helping our audience by getting their questions answered and just making it more of a community where we just have this back and forth conversation with all of our listeners. And I really like that idea.
Yeah, write that down, Rebecca. We need to do that. Ask our customers about what they can submit. We can tag them. We can do all kinds of stuff there. I'm excited about that. Great idea, Bethany. Okay, so the last thing is following up. Okay, once you do the poll, once it's over, we should share the results with the audience and let them know that you are thankful that they contributed an answer, right? Telling people and discussing, that either, within your newsletter or your website or whatever, have a time set aside to discuss that. Also, people do comment on these polls, especially in LinkedIn, right? There's an option to comment, not pick an answer, or you can pick an answer and comment. Yeah. But don't just leave those comments there, like engage with those, find out more. And so it's not just about the poll itself. It's about continuing that conversation and responding directly to the poll questions or comments to make people really feel heard.
One of the things I was thinking about as we were talking about this was really tying this into another social topic we talked about a few weeks ago, and it's using the poll and the responses from the poll and having a discussion about that in somewhere like Twitter Spaces. So you do your poll and at the end of the poll and say we'll discuss on Twitter Spaces on Tuesday at 4, meet us there. Just lots of different ways you can tie these together and engage more.
Yeah. And I really, we need to really use that Twitter Spaces. I mean, we jumped on there for 5 minutes and somebody we didn't even know, came to our group and talked about sustainability. It was really relevant, right? If you put the name of the Twitter Spaces in there. If you
like the category or whatever you're talking about, the theme of what you're talking about.
Yeah. And you send that out I'm here. You can send it out through your Twitter. I thought that was awesome. I didn't really expect to get somebody that I didn't know join us
You're
on
a big
there.
deal, Charli.
Well, I just thought it would be our friends, right? My top 5 friends are going to come join me on Twitter Spaces.
We weren't even on the Empowering Pumps page. It was Charli's profile space.
That's right. So. Anyway. So, okay, that's enough about that. Let's get serious. Let's get into the news. That sounds extra long.
I know, or weird or slow or something. This is where we're going to talk to you and preview the news coming out on the Empowering Pumps and Equipment newsletter this week. You can sign up for that. There's a link in the show notes, and then you get a nice email delivered to you twice a week where you can keep up with everything you need to know, including the person of the week this week, who I think you all should know if you've been listening to the podcast.
Yes, and I'm excited to bring you Rob Kalparovsky. He is an amazing person in our industry, my leadership coach, but he has spent over 10 years as a reliability engineer, asset manager in mining, oil and gas, heavy industry. He's the co-host of the Leadership Launchpad Project, Dismantling the High Performance Narrative. He's also the founder of the podcast Maintenance Disrupted, which was his podcast formerly known as Rob's Reliability Project. And he is on a mission, and I love to share this, to spread the message of people-centric leadership. That's what he's about. He talks about the importance of mental health through the industrial space and his vision of the world where happiness and engagement is a commonplace for the workplace. Wow. I mean, you don't want to know more about him. I know when we've had him on here a couple of times, he's had some really good feedback on his podcast, but I just wanted to give the opportunity to be like, you are an amazing person in this industry. And so we're going to highlight him this week.
Agreed. He's awesome. Definitely check him out, his profile, and all our other people of the week that you can find as well. And while you're there, nominate someone that you think is deserving, that has an awesome story. They don't exactly have to have their mission defined like Rob did, but just anyone in the industry that you think is doing a great job and deserves a pat on the back and that you want to highlight. We want to highlight them. All you have to do is send us their name and email, and we'll contact them to do the rest.
Love it. All right. What do you have for us, Bethany?
Oh, I'm first this week.
Mm-hmm.
I should know this. Yeah. So we're going to talk about DFT implementing new advanced robotics technology. It's really cool when you start talking about robotics and all that they can accomplish in the industry. So at the DFT headquarters, they're streamlining their manufacturing with the use of advanced robotics. And this technology, they use it in the production of lapped discs. So which is a part of their spring-assisted check valves that they manufacture there. So what they found is that robotics provides, superior quality, safety, efficiency, and that their productivity rate is 2.5 times greater than it was with their previously operator control machine that they were using. And so they also found that the work safety for employees is greatly improved. And I saw some really cool things about how it works, and they put it in its own little room, and that if the door opens or it senses movements, it automatically shuts down so that, it makes it safer for the employees that are using it. And they go on to talk about how the company has plans to improve other processes in the future and getting more robots. I like to just picture robots just running around. I know it's not.
Well,
exactly
I've seen it in a couple of different plants, and It really is amazing how these robots can interact with humans and different things and keep people safe as they're helping them with the process. There's, some people that kind of fear robots and kind of taking the jobs, but these robots are smart enough to work with people, and that's amazing to me. So.
Well, and I view it as, those people that were doing these manufacturings or like manning these machines that were doing it, they have a lot of knowledge that this company, which DFT does talk about how, they're bringing in more without displacing any of their employees. You're freeing up their time and knowledge to be able to put in even more value into your company. And I think that's a really positive thing.
It is easier a lot of the times on their physical bodies, right? And so that's really important because, we want those to last as long as possible. So if we've got a machine that can help us out, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Okay. So my story is a white paper from Flowserve, Gaining Visibility into Asset Performance. And I think this is really neat because we can talk about all the different ways that asset health and monitoring has changed over really in the recent years. But we've talked about wireless connectivity, wireless technologies, artificial intelligence, predictive algorithms, which is just amazing to think about.
Sounds so smart.
Yeah. I mean, it is smart. I mean, we just learned that from our last podcast.
Yeah.
This is what it's about. And companies are getting deeper insights into their equipment and how that works and performs. And they're able to have better operations, more efficient, more productive, safer. It's just all around a great thing. So this white paper is going to explain the evolution of asset health management technology and how it's changed over the years. We've seen it in our lifetimes, which is really kind of neat. But check out the white paper, and we'd love to hear what you think about it.
Awesome. All of these articles, the link will be in our show notes, and you can find them in your email in the Empowering Pumps and Equipment newsletter. Now we're going to move into our industry interview today. Charli, who you got up for us?
Yeah, I'm jazzed about this because when we recorded this, okay, this weekend coming up is National Maritime Day this Saturday, and I'll be at the beach, so that'll be wonderful.
Me
But
too.
yeah, so we're gonna see and can really participate in this. The maritime industry is what we're celebrating. So all the ships, all the boats, this anything next to the sea, one of these vessels that help us and. I couldn't think of anybody better than Pat Bussie, who is the vice president of development at Fairbanks Morse Defense. Now, I knew him when it was called Fairbanks Morse Engine. So they've just did a rebranding, which is amazing. And Pat, he has such a great experience level because he started with Fairbanks Morse in 1979. You heard that right, 42 years ago. He has been in their starting out at their Apprentice Program, and then he's worked with all types of, large to medium-sized diesel engines for the marine industry. They also go into stationary and nuclear industry. But when I think of ships in the Navy and engines that run them, I think of Fairbanks Morse and I think of Pat Bussie. So I wanted to bring him in and let you just learn from him as I did.
He's awesome. I love his introduction and how he got in the industry. And it's a really cool story of, I think, an alternate path to success, from what you think of the traditional C-suite people and how they got there. He didn't go straight to college. He started in that apprentice program. It's a really neat story. And I really, really enjoyed the interview. And I hope that all of our listeners will as well. So here we go.
Hey, Pat Bussie, I am so excited to welcome you to the Empowering Industry podcast. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that, and looking forward to this hour.
Yeah. So I've known you for over a decade now, and so I'm so excited to kind of let you help everybody kind of understand who you are and what you do, and ask you some really cool questions about what y'all have going on. But let's start with you, Pat.
Okay. Well, my name for the people viewing this, my name is Pat Bussie. I'm Vice President of Business Development at Fairbanks Morse, and this is my 42nd year at Fairbanks. So I've been here a long time, go back to the 70s. And you asked a question earlier, you were talking about how did I get in this industry?
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually an interesting story. I was just sharing it with some people at Fairbanks here right around Christmas time. And they said, wow, that is really different. Back in 1979, I was enrolled to go to school in UW system and all ready to go to college, had a roommate picked out. And I had two brothers that were also going to school. And my parents, honest to God, we had 5 kids. My parents said, can you put it off a year? And that was kind of an interesting time. It was in July of 1979. I said, well, wait a minute. And try to be nice to my mom and dad. I said, okay, well, what am I going to do? Well, my dad worked at Fairbanks Morse. Go figure, right? And he said, why don't you try to get in Fairbanks? And I just didn't want to jump into Fairbanks, but he said they get an apprenticeship program. So I applied for an apprenticeship program back in 79. I took a test, interviewed, and they said, yes. They said, we'd like to have you join. And I joined on as an apprentice, which was 4 years, 6 months for a diesel technician. And during this time, I learned how to disassemble engines. I learned how to reassemble engines. I learned manufacturing. I learned welding. I learned control, switch gear, electrical. I learned engine testing. It was a phenomenal system where you went to school 1 day a week. You had the vice presidents of different departments teaching you. And I went out in the foundry, went to the pattern shop. You learn all aspects of this business, which was fantastic. And sadly, I'm going to tell you that I am the last apprentice to graduate from the state of Wisconsin and Fairbanks Morse Apprenticeship Program, which is a whole nother discussion in this country. We need the hands-on training is becoming very, very important. But then after I get out of my apprenticeship program, the story didn't stop. I went into field service and I knew how to start engines, disassemble engines, repair them, control, switch gear, motor control centers, everything. So I went around. I worked on Navy ships, submarines. I worked in power plants, nuclear facilities. And after 4 years, I said, okay, I'm living out of a suitcase. And I said, let's get home. I went in R&D for a year, and that was great, running on different fuels and testing the engines. Then I went up to engineering for a year. And then I went into our technical services group because I knew all of our products. I knew our customer, commercial, nuclear, or government, didn't matter. And I could answer the phone and talk them through their troubleshooting. And then I got interested in, I went back to school. During this time, I went back to school, got my bachelor's, got my MBA, and the Fairbanks was very good, flexible hours for me way back then, back in the 80s, which is unheard of. And they put me in the government sales group, and I learned government sales, bid proposals, estimating, and I really liked it a lot. And then I worked on this program called Seawolf, and I became program manager for the Seawolf program and got involved with all the qualification testing, shock testing, disassembling the engine inspection. So I was just continuously getting the education, and they got me in this LPD 17 program. They said, "Hey, why don't you work on this program too?" We won the program, and after that, in 1998, they made me the manager, offered me the manager of government engine sales. And that was probably one of the biggest transitions I made. Now I am in charge of a group. So now I got to produce. All the training for the last 19 years is behind us. Now you got to produce.
Well, I let you
And
go on with that without interrupting because I want everybody to understand. You have been called Mr. Fairbanks Morse. So I think that that's a testament to that. You learned through the Apprentice Program and kind of worked your way through the system to where you are today. And I think that's so important.
yeah, and to say it was all planned out, Charlie, that way would be a lie. It just
Right.
happened that way. But being involved with all these programs all the ones from 1979 on, as far as the submarine programs, the 688 Trident, Seawolf, LPD, LSD, LHA, CVN, TAO, I was involved with all the programs, so I can tell you the ships, the shipyard, the engine, who we competed against, all the qualification testing we did, how we designed the engine to pass the test, and I don't have to crack a book. It's just all there, and it's all because immersed in the business. And it's just been a fantastic ride. I can't stress it enough. It's been a great run. And moving on from the new engine sales side, I eventually took over all engines, just commercial, nuclear, and government. And then I took over program management and the aftermarket side. So I had the whole business at one point in time where I got to learn from very beginning all the way through the end of a life of a ship, okay, and engines being removed. So today, and I think today, some of this is my background. That's how I got to be where I'm at today. Today, I'm vice president of business development for Fairbanks Morse Defense, which is our new
Yes.
business.
This is so exciting. So I'm really excited about this. This is really why I contacted you. I kind of saw the buzz happening, and this is the rebranding that's happening. So Fairbanks Morse Defense. And then, I really want to talk about the service side of that too. It's such a core element of what we do. And I know it is of you and part of that story. You told us that. But, from your perspective, tell us about that excitement about the rebrand, and then, how does this help you serve your customers better?
So I think there's two parts there. The rebranding, we did this for a reason, but it actually have to start back a little sooner. Fairbanks Morse was acquired by a company called Arcline Industries Incorporated in January 21st, 2020. We became part of them. Enpro sold us off. We were bought by this company. Well, why is that important to know that? When we were a publicly traded company underneath Enpro, we actually chased every quarter, just like every publicly traded company. And a lot of our decisions were more short term based. And not that they were bad decisions, but the publicly traded company that drove some of your decisions. Okay. Come along Arcline and private equity firm. And we've all heard, and many of us, I should say, have heard private equity. We had the fear factor. What's going to happen? I could not be happier. Let me tell you why. We have a company like Arcline buys us, invests, and they're private, so we can actually do what the customer needs, and that plays into the rebranding. 85-90% of our business is government. All right, and we build the largest engines in North or South America in this little town called Beloit, Wisconsin. We get engines that are over 200 tons built here. Well, we can't find people just off the street to go work on these engines. It's a very specialized trade. It's big equipment and it goes together kind of unique. At the same time, our customers are out there and we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of engines out in the system, in ships and aircraft carriers and submarines, power plants, etc. And we realized that, we can do a lot better job helping our customers. So On the service side, what we've done is we went from 75, 80 field service people to 125, 130, soon to be 150. So we've invested heavily in getting higher employees, training the employees, dispatching them East Coast, West Coast, Gulf Coast, Midwest, all over the country. So people are available and trained and available when you need them, 24/7, 365. At the same time, when you're publicly traded, holding too much inventory, is not a good thing. So Arcline comes in. What do you need? We had the inventory. Well, they said, let's add to it. We put another $14 million plus on the shelf. Pistons, liners, rods, bearings, so you name it. So we've invested a lot more in our inventory, a lot more in our service, and primarily focused on the government. And not that we're walking away from our nuclear customers or our commercial customers, but with your main customer, our main customer, it's the United States government. It's the Navy, military seal of command, and the Coast Guard. So we're putting our focus there. And they need things. We're asking them, how many hours are you running your ship? How many hours are you running the engines? What kind of parts you're going to need? What kind of overhauls? We'll tell them what's needed. We'll go ahead and put together kits well in advance of what they need them on our nickel so they're ready to go, which allows the turnaround time for the ship much, much faster. Mm-hmm. We've added on to our technical services group, so we're available 24/7. You make a phone call, you don't get an answer machine. You get somebody that understands this equipment. It's huge, and they can start talking to you right away and say, hey, I think it's this, I think it's this, here's what we maybe need to do, and we can start doing some of the coordination. And that's all part of our package when you buy an engine from Fairbanks.
Yeah. And I think absolutely. I think it's so important. And I've been to that factory and seen the engines and have my picture made with one of them. So I really always love that. But, I think it's really important what you're saying about being there for the customer and the service side of that, because you can't you can't be reactive, right? You've got to be planful and mindful. And I do think that it takes leadership to be able to do that. And I can't leave without asking you about George Whittier, who is the new CEO there, and new is relative. He's been there for a while, seeing you kind of through this transition. But what I know about him is he was a walk around leadership guy, and I did get a chance to talk with him about kind of the values of the organization. But just from your perspective, having George back there, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, no, I will. That's I'll tell you. I say a couple things about George. And maybe I can talk too much about George. George was here for 3 years, and then he left. And when our client acquired Fairbanks, they announced the acquiring Fairbanks in December 2019, December 12th actually. And they called me and they were talking about, you're going to need a president, et cetera. I said, I'll tell you what, if you really want to get the best, I said, I've got the guy for you. And they really, I said, this person, he knows Fairbanks. He knows our product. He knows our customer. He knows what we need to do. And I said, he's got the energy. People believe in him. He actually has a lot of empathy when he talks to somebody. He listens. It's not just his way. It's really what makes the most sense for us as a team, et cetera. He's got all the characteristics, and he's the hardest working person. When I say hard, he doesn't work just 40 hours and tell you to work 80. He's the one working 90 hours a day, or 90 hours a week. I'm sorry. He works that hard. And I think you know him, Charlie. He's smarter than all of us to begin with, but he's got that humility where he makes mistakes in front of people, he's talking to 300 of us now. And by the way, I'll get into the size of our company, but 300 people. And he admits right in front of everybody, he says, yeah, I made a mistake. Just that, it just neutralizes everything. My God, here's the CEO admitting, okay, made a mistake on that one. All right, I learned something. Wow. And I'm saying that's the kind of person he is. If he walks through the shop, he knows everybody's name. He's very approachable. He's a different kind of person. When he gets up in front of the government, he speaks very open, gives them a personal cell phone. If you got a problem, call him direct. That's a leader. Not that we haven't had good leaders before, but he's probably one of the best leaders I've seen in 42 years at Fairbanks Morse.
Yeah, and I know he cares about all the people there, especially you as well. And I just think he found his home there, and he's so excited to be back and helping y'all lead that forward. And during a pandemic and kind of just transition, you need a strong leader and you need somebody who cares about people and their team. And so, with that, I'll break to our clip somewhere in between there, Pat. But let's talk about what's next for Fairbanks Morse Defense.
Okay, well, it dovetails into what George has done in his first year. He started in January 27th of 2020. So he's been here about a year and a half now, right? In his first year, you have to keep this perspective. During a pandemic year, his first year on the job, he bought 3 more companies, in addition to taking Fairbanks Morse and taking us from a publicly held company to a private company and setting up all the things, the 401k, your healthcare, getting to know people. He hired on new people, et cetera. All this, and you pause, you say, why is that significant? In a crisis situation, and that really what it was last year.
Yes,
it was. He was exemplary in being calm, thinking things through, buying 3 companies. Pause on that and think about this. In 42 years, we bought 1 company in 42 years, which was Elko in 1993-94. He'd already bought 3 in his first year. That's phenomenal. He bought Brico, he bought Globe, and he bought Ward Leonard early January this year. And we're buying more. So you ask what's next. That's why I say it dovetails into what's next. We're actively looking for more companies, and the companies we're looking for are companies that are in need of services, are in the government sector, or a company that's not in the government sector that has a good product that should be in the government sector. That's what we're looking for. And stay tuned. I think you'll find out later this year. We'll buy a couple more companies. I'm sure of that. George is involved. We're going to buy a few more companies. So we're growing.
Yeah, that strategic aspect of putting all that together. I think we all learned a little bit about supply chain and what we need, and
Yes.
Like you said about inventory, having that ready for our customers. So I think that's a strategic move as well.
Oh, it is. And when I said about our product, and I say this about a lot of the military products, you just can't say, hey, I got a ship coming in and I'm going to go find somebody, some common laborers to come in and work on an engine, which is quite expensive, a generator, heat exchangers, filters, control. You just can't do that. You have to invest in these people in advance so they have the training and they have the know-how. And then you have to have them backed up back at your home office, wherever it is. So if they do run into something that's really unique, we have people that are trained there as well to support them. And you have to anticipate what kind of parts they're going to need, where they're going to need support. And we're doing this. We're listening. What's next? Service centers. We got service centers in Norfolk and Houston, San Diego, Seattle, one up in Cochrane. Well, George is here, and George heard the Navy. They made one comment: sure be nice if he had something down in Jacksonville. So what did he do? He opened up a service center in Jacksonville. That quick. So the actions, they say, speak louder than words. And I think as I get older, I look back and I think about your question about leadership. And you're younger, you hear people talk about leadership and how important it is. I stand here now in my 60s and I say, leadership and the right attitude, you can accomplish anything. George Whittier brings that. He is the real McCoy. You can touch him. He knows what he wants to do. He knows where he wants to go. He knows what he needs to do to take us to the next step. And I'll tell you what, Charlie, when George says he wants to have a meeting, everybody will put down their tools and laptops and go to the meeting that quick. George says we got to work the weekend. Everybody works. There's no dissension at all, saying that's how connected he is with the company. It's kind of unique. Very unique.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I can just imagine what that's like, because you know that you're needed there. Your ideas are needed. Your leadership is needed. So I know he's put together a team that involves all the great leaders he knows as well. And he's searching for people that lead in that way. So I know he had big, just value and expressed all the love for you too, Pat, and it makes sense because you've been there, and helped build this company to what it is today as well. And so, I just am excited to see it. I'm excited to see what y'all put together and working together, what that looks like. Especially, everything that you learn that you're doing with the Navy or defense, or just, we'll call it maritime since it's Maritime Day, right?
Yes.
So everything that you learn there is going to help you in all these other service industries. And
Absolutely.
That's what's, key for sure. So you did mention the Apprentice Program, and I think I hear you, and I want to just say, okay, let's get that going and improve that because we do need these skilled workers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask. So just anything else, just as we've been talking, that you want to leave us with our audience and I guess your team as well.
Well, I'll tell you, Fairbanks Morse has been in this exact location, Beloit, Wisconsin, since 1872, 149 years. And I would say Fairbanks Morse today is a dynamic, thriving, growing corporation. We've been here for a long time. We're not going away, and we are committed at the highest level to providing the best service to our customers. So when you call us, you don't get somebody that's just going through the motions. We really want to make sure at the end of the day, the product is done, corrected, fixed, whatever. It's running, it's operational. So the ships at the highest level spend more time out to sea and very little time in port. We got the message and we're reacting to it. And I'll share with you that the Navy at different levels have come back in 1 year. This and we kind of joked about that. How fast the Navy? No disrespect to the Navy, it doesn't always move fast. They've already noticed the difference, and they said, "Holy cow, we love it." So and they've called George and let him know. They let me know. I can't be happier. Like I said, this company's got a lot going on. It's growing. Great place to work. We've got a lot of openings. We're looking for people. And as far as the acquisitions and size, we're almost double what we were a year and a half ago. So that shows you how fast we're growing.
It really does. And you know what? Just for everybody else that maybe is not in this industry, if you go to one of these shipyards and watch how these ships are put together and all of the different people and aspects from welding to HVAC systems, the people, if you think of the Navy, they live on the ship.
Yes.
And to see these ships launch and to have your engine as part of that, driving that, it gives you a sense of pride. And I know that that's part of it. I know I've been to different trade shows where y'all were, and you would see people coming up with that pride and really, excited about their hat they were going to get from y'all as well. And, I look forward to seeing that continue to grow. And I'm just so thankful that y'all have this team together as you move forward.
Well, thank you for that, Charlie. And the pride thing you mentioned, we think of not to carry this too deep, but we think of the engine as the heart of the ship. And we talk to everyone, all the employees. So everybody knows that a lot of machinists, assemblers, testers, they get new people in and engineers, and we all tell them this: the engine can't fail. That's it. Okay, you may have something that's not 100% right when it's running. You may have an issue. It can't fail. Okay, it has to get these sailors back home wherever they are, because if the engine doesn't run, you get a dead ship. Not acceptable. So that's the attitude, and so people take great care. And the pride you mentioned, you can cut it. And how do you get that in a group of people? It's a blessing. It's fantastic. But it goes back to the point where at the top, the leadership shows that they care, and we do care. And we've got a great staff. It starts at the top. George has done a phenomenal job of hiring all good people in key disciplines within the organization and cutting out and putting focus. And I use the example: you want to play the piano, you got to play the piano every single day, even on Sundays when your friends are out playing and your mom and dad say you got to do it. And you start out and you suck, but you keep at it, you get pretty good. This is what we're doing today: continuously improving how we build engines, how we work with suppliers, how we work with the customers, how do we get things done faster, more efficiently, more to make sure everyone feels it and it's impactful. I'll tell you, I know I'm at the end of my career, okay, but for young people that come to Fairbanks Morse, great place to go. This industry is growing. I gotta take a moment and take a shot at. We need the trades, welders, pipe fitters, electricians, controls. If I'm a young person today, don't get me wrong, I chased the college dream and did that too. But I look back and I say, my apprenticeship program is probably being used more. The experience I had in a 10-year period of time more today than my 4 years or my MBA. That's my position. And I tell you, we have needs. The shipyards across the country have the same needs that we do. And we're all looking for that next generation that has the skilled trades. They're not going to go away. We need them.
Well,
Well,
and what better time than to get to work with you before you do, retire and enjoy that dream of retirement if there's one. But it is crucial that we, get to talk with you, get to have your resources. So I encourage you to do all kinds of videos and different things that you can share your knowledge to our industry as well, and to that younger generation. Because, like you said, it's in there, and it's we want to make sure that we can allow people to work with you. I mean, it's such a great time for that. So anybody, y'all heard them, they're looking for people and businesses to bring along this journey. And so I'm excited that you let me, participate in this, and I'm looking forward to sharing the story.
well, thank you, Charlie. Fairbanks Morse is very appreciative of this time you spent with us. Very much so.
Thanks. Hi.
Hey, thanks
How's
for
it
having
going?
me.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things that I like to do is just talk about you and your story. And so just fill in the listeners on who you are and what you do.
All right. It's hard for me to talk about myself. So my name is George Whittier. I'm the CEO for Fairbanks Morse Defense. We just changed the name of our company a week ago. We used to be Fairbanks Morse, and now we're Fairbanks Morse Defense. And we can talk about that a little bit as we go. I've been with the company for about 18 months. But before that, I worked here for probably 15 years. I left. I went and ran a couple of other companies in between. And then in December of 2019, the company got sold. And as they got sold, they were looking for a leader. And the new owners asked me to come back and run the company. And I could not have been happier to say yes. And I did it. And I've been with the company ever since. And we're just having a lot of fun and growing and exciting and challenging all at the same time.
So one of the really cool things that I understand or experienced with you is kind of your leadership style, right? So I've known you over a decade now, and it's really, really cool to look back at, young Charli going through a shop. But you really did introduce me to this world of engines and shipbuilding and how all those play together, but more so that leadership style. So tell me a little bit about your style, or tell our listeners, right, about your walk around style.
Yeah, before I do that, let me start with values, because I start all these conversations with values, and it's become really an important part of who we are as Fairbanks Morse, and I think who we are even as people. And I talk about a lot of companies have a long list of values. They'll say, oh, we have 10 or 20 or some number, and I think that's fine for them, but I don't think that people really can relate to that. And so I can't go a day without talking about the values that we have. And we only have 3 as a company. And I'm like, well, why do we have 3? Well, we have 3 because people can remember 3, right? I can remember 3. So I hope everyone else can too. And our values start with integrity. And that obviously everybody has a definition of integrity. And for me, it's not just about being honest or doing the right thing. It's a lot more about owning your mistakes, being willing to take a chance and make a mistake, owning it, not blaming someone else, and learning from that, and then growing from it, right? And that to me is about integrity. It's more than just kind of telling the truth and the basics of what we all think about it. But it really resonates with who we are as a company. We have examples all the time, and we'll stop and we'll say, well, is it the way? How are we solving that problem with integrity, right? And it changes the mindset a little bit. No, we don't want to try to take advantage of them. That's not the right thing to do. We want to work with our customers. We want to work with our partners. The second value that I have, and I spend more time talking about this one than the other 2, is velocity. And because I'm an engineer, there's a big surprise, right? I think about velocity. Other people might say speed, but I'm like, no. Velocity is speed with a direction, right? And so that's what we have. And it's really about acting quickly, making good decisions, being responsible. But we're under, and every business is under a lot of time pressure, right? We all have commitments, we all have pressure, we all have stress. And when we act with velocity and we have a good team, we can get things done, and we can make a lot of accomplishments and get some really positive results and really perform, not just for our ownership, but also for our customers. And then the third velocity is teamwork. And I tell people there's nobody here that we're a football team. We're not Roll Tide, right? We're not Alabama, Charlie, but we're a football team. We're not golf. And so we need people to act as a team. We don't have anyone that stands alone on an island that just says, follow me and I got the ball, right? That's not how we operate. We win together as a team and we lose together as a team and we celebrate as a team and we work as a team. And so to be part of Fairbanks Morse Defense, you really need to embody those values, right? So it comes back to integrity, velocity, and teamwork. And then you asked about, my leadership style and walking around. And that's something I've always just done. And I just like to get to know people on a one-on-one basis. And that's how we met, 10 years or so ago, and stayed in touch throughout that time. But it just, so I like to get to know who they are. So the guys that we have in the shop, and they're fantastic guys, right? They're machinists, they're welders, they're assemblers, and they're the best engine builders in the whole world. And we believe that in our heart, right? And our customer, for the most part, is the U.S. Navy. And we have a lot of patriotism in that. And we have a lot of passion and a lot of pride. And the guys in the shop take a lot of care in what they do. And it's a great way to just be able to interact with them and recognize them and get to know them. And I say guys, that makes it sound like we're all men here. We're not. But how many children do they have? What's their football team? Here we are in Wisconsin. Almost everybody is a Packers fan. Of course, I'm a Cowboys fan. I can't walk through the shop without somebody making fun of how bad my football team is. But it's just it's a great way to interact with people. And then, as you talk to people, they're comfortable and you can share the vision of the company and they can buy into it. And then they can know, hey, we've got a customer that's in a jam. I really need some help here, guys. And you can get guys to come in and, all right, let's work together. Let's solve this problem. Let's do what we need to do. And so it's not for everybody, but it works for me. So.
Yeah, I love it. And it's one of the things, I mean, you knew everybody's name back then. So I'm sure there's more people now than back then, working there for you. You've grown quite a bit. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the change that you just made. Why did you do that? I mean, such, loyalty to the brand. I mean, I loved seeing, and I can't wait to talk to Pat about this. Love seeing the people kind of come by the trade show booth and pick up their cap and, this legacy of people. So tell me about the change and why you did that.
Yeah. So we're a 150-year-old company. We have been around a long, long time, right? And we take a lot of pride in that. And we've been working with the Navy. They've been either our largest or one of our largest customers since the 1930s. When we first put engines on all the submarines. And if you think about the submarine fleet, how important that was in both the Atlantic campaign and then in the Pacific campaign as well. And as we've gone through a couple of iterations, as every company does, right, they kind of grow and develop and change. And in the last 10 years or so, the company was really kind of lost. And so they were thinking, maybe we should be a commercially focused company. Maybe we should be a nuclear focused company. Maybe we should be focused on oil and gas. They didn't really know what they wanted to do. And when the company got sold, and I think this is one of the reasons that they got sold, the vision that I had with the company was that the Navy is our most important customer. And for us to really be successful, we really need to pay attention to them. And so part of this is as a rebranding exercise. It's just telling the world, we're no longer Fairbanks Morse, right? Which is a good name. No, I'm not criticizing that, but we're Fairbanks Morse Defense, right? This is who we are. We're taking care of the Navy. We're taking care of the Coast Guard. We're expanding a lot. You just hinted at that. When I gave you a tour 10 years or so ago, I think we probably had 400 employees. Today we have almost 1,000. We're up to 10 locations. I'm looking to buy more companies. So if there's anyone out there listening, give me a call, send me a note on LinkedIn. I'm interested in talking to you. Or get to me through Charli. You can do that as well. But we're looking at growing and expanding. We've got a passionate vision about service for the customer, and we're excited about that.
That's awesome. Okay, so I was really excited about how it's organized. And so there's several different pieces of this kind of umbrella brand. There's so many different pieces. So leading with defense, and then can you tell us a little bit about the other divisions?
Yeah, so there's three businesses that all roll up underneath me. So as the kind of the umbrella of Fairbanks Morse Defense. So for a long, long, long time, the company was actually known as Fairbanks Morse Engine. And probably 5 or 6 years ago, that name got retired. And in industry, if you ask people what they think of with Fairbanks Morse, immediately the first thing they're going to say is engine. So it was really oh geez, what's the right? I'm not sure. Just passionate to bring that back, right? Let's revive that name. That's a great name. Everybody knows it, and so we did that, and we structured the first business as Fairbanks Morse Engine, and that business is responsible for building, assembling, testing, delivering everything there is to do with the engine itself. On the new side, how do we get that engine to our customer, to the shipyard or to the power plant, whatever our customer needs are? How do we do that efficiently? How do we do it cost effectively? How do we do it with the best technology, that we can provide the best solution? And all of that is, we need a group of people and a team that's just completely focused on that. The second business, which is Fairbanks Morse Services, is how all the things after that engine is then delivered and it's starting to produce power, how do we then take care of it, right? So we need to make sure that we have the best technicians, and we've grown our service technician force from 75 2 years ago to the end of this year. We're going to be at about 150, right? And we've added service locations, and we're adding service capability. So we're getting in more tooling and more capability. We're providing more services that the Navy and the Coast Guard, they want us to offer, right? They look to us as the experts. And so as an expert, how do we do more for them? And that's what we're really trying to do, is we can work on things that are just beyond the engine. And then that leads us into our growth strategy. And in January of this year, we bought this wonderful company called Ward Leonard, and they make motors and motor controllers. And so you might say, geez, well, a motor and an engine, that's not the same thing. And I'd say, you're right, it's not. But their focus is also on the Navy. They weren't necessarily doing they didn't have a service network. And so we looked at it as their service opportunity there. How do we grow our services business? But we can go get other components, and there's other products out there that we can then take. And so we bought the Ward Leonard business. We're still growing them on the new product side as well. We're still chasing new business at shipyards and all that stuff. But now we're also able to say, hey, there's a service opportunity that was untapped. And then we can use the 150 guys that we have to then go take care of that business. And those are other businesses that we're looking at adding to. Now there's 2 or 3 companies that we're talking to, and we'll try to continue to grow that way through the rest of this year and next year.
I love it. This is one of my favorite companies as well. I feel like I grew up there. I understood so much more. One of my first creations on social media management. So just absolutely thrilled that they have you back there, and I can see the difference already. One thing I do want to talk to you about, you mentioned that you're an engineer, which I think, I thought you were going to say viscosity there for a second, but velocity.
I can throw out other words too.
Yeah. But tell me, just as we've been talking, and I guess leaving that, this industry, and kind of, is there any advice you would give to somebody looking to become part of it? As an engineer or otherwise, what would you leave people with as far as advice?
Yeah, I guess it depends on their level. So, but if it's, my oldest 2 children are now in college or about to be in college, which is kind of scary. I still think of them as little babies, right, that you're taking home from the hospital. And the advice I give them is make sure you just try to grow and learn and develop and take as many opportunities as you can. Don't be afraid to take that risk and take that challenge. If you're somewhere, later in the career, then it's almost the same advice. I guess it's a little bit different though, but I think about kind of how I grew up and how did I get to where I am today, which was, you reach a fork in the road and you can kind of continue to do what you're doing, or you might have a chance to do something different and grow and develop. And I think a lot of people choose not to take that chance. They're worried about the risk. What if I fail? What if I don't do well? And occasionally that does happen, right? There's a reason that's a risk, but I would always encourage people, take that opportunity, right? Grow, learn, develop. Make yourself a better person, and then not just for for the company, right? Because the company is going to want to see you grow and develop, but also for just think about what it means for yourself as you're thinking, wow, here's what I used to be, and here's where I am today. And I'll tell you this, Charli. So again, I've been back for 18 months, and I joke with people, and I tell them I'm actually on George 3.0. So if I think about when I came back to the company 18 months ago, the things I was working on, the things I was focused on for the first 6 months, it's nothing close to what the things I'm doing today are. So I've had to reinvent myself and reinvent somewhat the strategy and vision and direction of the company 3 times in the last 18 months. And you think, well, wait a minute, why, you're the CEO, it's all the same. And it's like, no, it's not. You constantly are learning and growing and developing. And so you really need the advice I would really give is make sure you're working that muscle, right? And training that muscle. And so when you get those opportunities, hey, this is an opportunity to learn and grow and develop and take it, right? That's worked out well for me. And it's the advice I give my children. It's the advice I would give other people as well. So.
That's great. And, it makes me think of, I just need to tell the world that, you are a great leader and you also have done some really cool things. So one thing is you've participated in an Ironman. So two Ironman. And, that takes the work. It takes the discipline. It takes understanding your body and listening to it and, training for it. So it's just amazing. And, I think I can't wait to see what you do next, I guess is the best way to kind of end this. Thank you for being here with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Charli. It's nice to see you again. And thanks for inviting me on your podcast. This is a fantastic experience for me. And I hope people can, participate. And, again, if anyone's out there and they're thinking about selling their company and it's in the Navy or the marine industry, give me a call. I'm interested in talking to you.
I love it. Okay.
And we're back. Charli, thanks so much for bringing him on. That was a wonderful interview, and it was great timing for Maritime Day. Thanks for always thinking ahead and keeping us on track here at the podcast with these interviews.
Every now and then, I throw one out there. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the show. It really does. And it makes me sad every single time, but I will have some excellent planning for the next one. And thanks for listening. For all of you.
Do us a favor, subscribe, rate and review the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to it. We love that kind of feedback.
You can always reach us at Empowering Pumps or using the hashtag Empowering Industry Podcasts or via email podcast@empoweringpumps.com. We love to hear from you. We love our shout outs. Let us hear from you.
We'll be back every Monday with a new episode.
So until then, be empowering.
I don't know. I thought it would be funny.